We begin this hour with Syria. I can't possibly underscore enough just how dire the situation there is right now. Look at this. Women and children, some of them covered up, huddling close together in a room. At least 35 people reportedly killed just today, including a whole family in Homs. The United Nations estimates more than 7,000 people, mostly peaceful protesters, have died since the start of the uprising. Add to that tens of thousands injured, thousands more that have fled their homeland, been arrested, or simply disappeared. We're going to go to CNN's Arwa Damon for the latest in just a minute. But first, one activist's horrifying up-close look at the desperation on the streets of Syria.
This is one of the normal houses. This isn't a poor house. You can't say it's a poor house. This is a normal family living. But look how they're living now. They never used to live like this in their life. You can see how they're living. Everyone's hiding in the houses. Even in the houses, people aren't safe anymore.
You don't know if the rocket's going to come in your living room or in your kitchen. It's not easy if someone loses their kid. I saw mothers crying today. That mother lost her 4-year-old girl, and her 6-year-old girl lost her left eye. That's not something easy. Everyone's becoming used to death here.
This is one of the BNB tanks that the Free Army captured yesterday, February the 2nd. The Free Army captured it. The soldiers ran away, the Assad soldiers ran away while the Free Army was hitting it with RBJ rockets. The tank didn't get damaged. This is the driver of the tank. He's a member of the Syrian Free Army. They've been hearing us from like 8 a.m. with moribunds and tank shells. Never stop. Every 1 minute, a tank shell or moribund lands in there. It either blows in the air or comes in one of the buildings. Look, you can see in here. We just landed here 2 minutes ago. This is a civilian's house. This is a civilian house. People live. Just standing on the roof. This is one of the casualties from the moribund. This is how we move them. Look at the tank. Look how we move them. We move them in these cars. This is how we move the casualties. Look at the blood in the car.
I saw really horrible things I've never seen in my life. Kids in the hospital, a kid with his whole jaw gone. A little girl, a kid, she's 4 years old, she's dead. Her sister's 6 years old, she lost her left eye, and her mother's in intensive care. This is nothing. This is not, what I saw is nothing. This is all around Homs.
Look at the bodies! Look at the bodies! These are rockets! They've been firing at rockets for us for 2 hours now. We've got more than 30 people dead, hundreds of injuries. Look at the civil hospital, look! All dead bodies all over the place. Look, dead bodies all in the hospital. Look, this is all dead bodies. Come in here. Look. Social housing. We're on. We're not animals. We're human beings. We're asking for help. We're asking for your help. They're hitting us with rockets. They've been non-stop with us rockets for 4 hours now. They're going to kill us all. If we don't help us, they'll kill millions. And no one will find out about us. Please, someone help us.
Please come and help us. You heard that appeal. Let's go to CNN's Arwa Damon. She's standing nearby in Beirut right now. Arwa, are we seeing the same kind of frustration that we just saw in your reporting? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What's coming in?
You know, Wolf, that desperation that you heard there in that activist's voice, that is exactly what we are hearing from every single person that we have been talking to inside Syria that is somehow involved in this opposition. People's voices really trembling with emotion, with anguish, anger, frustration, and pain, unable to understand how it is that since for the last 11 months, pretty much similar images have been emerging from Syria, how it is that the world has failed to unite, has failed to help them come up with some sort of a solution. They say that they continue to be victims of this brutal onslaught by the Assad regime. They continue to lament the fact that everything seems to be paralyzed at the global and international level. And while dialogue continues amidst the various powers, they are the ones at the end of the day who continue to suffer. And many of the activists are also saying it's too much. What we're going through, it's too much. And they keep asking how long it is that they're going to have to endure this kind of pain and suffering. And that is a question that at this stage, Wolf, no one can really answer.
Do we have a sense from the opposition what they really want? Do they want, for example, as Senator John McCain in Washington is suggesting, they want the U.S., the Europeans, the Arab world to start sending them weapons?
You know, Wolf, there's a lot of conflicting emotions when it comes to that specific aspect, because on the one hand, everyone who we've been speaking to from the opposition is fully aware of what the consequences of that would mean, and that it would most certainly put Syria on a very bloody path towards an all-out civil war. But at the same time, many of them say they feel that at this stage there is no other option. They say that the window for dialogue with this government closed a long time ago, and unless they can somehow be some sort of a match for the weapons and for the numbers that the Assad regime has at its disposal, they are quite simply going to die. Many of the activists say that they feel that every single day is their last, and they feel that unless there is some sort of international military intervention, although deep down inside they really don't want to have to take that route, but unless at this point in time it does materialize, they are eventually at the end of the day going to be wiped out by the Assad regime while the world watches.
Arwa Damon doing amazing reporting for us. Thank you very much. And this breaking news here in the Situation Room. Just a little while ago, I spoke with the United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice. I asked her to look in the camera and speak directly to the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Here's what she said. You're being seen around the world, including in Damascus right now. I want you to look into the camera as you are. And assume you're speaking directly to President Bashar al-Assad in Syria. What would you say to him?
I'd say the United States stands with the people of Syria, fully and unequivocally in their aspirations for peace, for democracy, and for a brighter future. Your days are numbered, and it is time and past time for you to transfer power responsibly and peacefully. The longer you hang on, the more damage you do yourself, your family, your interests, and indeed your country.
Let's dig a little bit deeper right now, get some more analysis with the distinguished Middle East scholar, Professor Fuad Ajami. He's a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution out in California. Professor Ajami, is the world doing enough right now? What else should the world be doing?
Well, Wolf, the world is not doing anything. The world really is watching, and I think the last chapter, this episode at the United Nations Security Council, we went to the Security Council and everybody hung their hopes on the Security Council, and the Obama administration, I think, basically argued that somehow or another Russia will see the light of day. They really didn't worry about the Chinese. They thought that Chinese were just coming along for the ride. They were worried about the Russians. They convinced themselves that they could sweet-talk the Russians into dropping their veto. The Russians wouldn't do so because Vladimir Putin, in a way, is really, his regime is very much akin to the regime of Bashar al-Assad, and the Russians were committed to the tyranny in Damascus, and we saw what we saw.
Because, you know, Bashar al-Assad still has the support not only of Russia and China, but as I pointed out to Ambassador Rice, even some neighboring countries, strong support from Iran, from elements in Lebanon, even from the supposedly pro-U.S. regime in Baghdad, the Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. So he may not be as isolated as a lot of people in the West like to think he is right now.
Yes, I was watching the interview you did with Ambassador Rice, and it's what you said is quite important, quite interesting to underline. When you take a look at the Damascus regime, if they look to the West, there is a government in Lebanon which is really a satrap of the Syrian government. This is a government that answers to the man in Damascus, that answers to Bashar. Now, on his eastern border, there is this odd regime of Nouri al-Maliki, this American midwife regime, which should be ashamed of itself for the support it has given to Bashar al-Assad. It has given it on sectarian grounds, that basically they think the Shia-led government in Baghdad believes that the Alawi-led government in Damascus is its natural allies. And the Jordanians, I think, are in many ways, they're sympathetic to the rebellion in Syria, but they're very timid. So when you consider the borders of this regime, the borders of Syria, there's only one border they really worry about, which is the border with Turkey, which is where the opposition is based, because the border with Israel is for all practical purposes sealed.
Good point. Fuad, don't go away. I want to continue this conversation. But our Tom Foreman has been taking a close look at the current situation in Syria. And for a lot of folks out there, it's starting to remind us of what happened in Hama in Syria back in 1982 when Hafez al-Assad, Bashar al-Assad's father, scorched that dissenting town, killing thousands of people. And I want Tom to remind us what happened in Hama.
Yeah, you know, Wolf, this really is it's an anniversary time there. Many people are talking about that very event. Here are the two towns, Homs down here, Hama up here. That's exactly what happened in Hama 30 years ago this week, Wolf. What happened essentially was that the Syrian forces moved in to stop this revolt there. They encircled the city, and then for 3 weeks, they pounded it with artillery, tanks, and eventually moved in on the ground. But basically, they reduced so much of it in here to simple rubble because nothing was done to stop them. It crushed the revolution. Amnesty International believes that between 10 and 25,000 people were killed in that period of time, and that crushed that revolution. So the question and the fear for many in this current uprising is that what's on the way for Homs down here? What we know so far is that they have more than 60 checkpoints throughout the city, which we would assume, again, because we don't have reporters in there to verify all this, that what that does is sort of segregate the city. It allows them to control the flow of people from place to place to place. Beyond that, here's what we know, Wolf. Just like we saw up in Hama many years ago, in places like Baba Amro, which is one of the most the centers for the resistance down there, we know that right now that there has been a very strong presence of tanks around the city. Presumably, they're covering the major roads like this and cutting them off, again, making it difficult for medical supplies, food to get in or out. We're talking about Soviet T-72 style tanks. This one's from Iraq, as you can see by the flag, but nonetheless, it'd be Syrian tanks. These tanks weigh 41 tons each. They are about 12 feet wide, so they'll be somewhat limited on the narrower streets, but a tremendous amount of firepower. We know that there are dozens down around this neighborhood. In addition to that, we know that Katyusha rockets are one of the chief methods being used to attack here, as far as we can be told by people on the ground there. Katyusha rockets have been around since the World War II. They, in fact, are mounted and able to move very quickly. You can fire up to 40 to 50 of them in a matter of moments. They carry tremendous firepower. They're light and they're quick. They're not very accurate, but when you start pounding an area like this, you understand, Wolf, while so many of the Syrian opposition forces fear that what they're seeing is a reprise of what happened 30 years ago.
Tom Foreman, thanks very much. I remember that story, that tragedy vividly. Fuad Ajami is back with us. He remembers it well as well. Fuad, if we go back and take a look at what Hafez al-Assad did then, yes, can we expect the son to follow the father's example now?
Now, Wolf, remember, Hafez Assad's wife, widow, and the mother of Bashar, she's still around, and the reports they indicate that the mother, in fact, is counseling the son to do exactly what his father did. This is a fight to the finish. It's scorched earth. And by the way, Wolf, on last Friday was the 30th anniversary of the massacres of Hama, and the people of Syria gave that Friday a name, and the name was Forgive Us, Hama. This time around, we've closed the circle. We've moved from Hama to Homs. This is the capital of this big fight. And yes, I think for the regime of Bashar al-Assad, it's a fight to the finish. And I think American diplomacy really has to face the truth that we can't just simply sit idly by, and that we wasted an enormous amount of time going to the Security Council when the results should have been foreseen. And the choice isn't between boots on the ground and doing nothing. There are a whole lot of things we can do. Arming the opposition, helping the opposition, recognizing the opposition as the government of Syria. We have not done any of this yet.
Fuad Ajami, as usual, thanks very much. We'll stay in close touch with you. We're not going to leave this story, obviously, a tragedy unfolding in Syria right now.